Such a light we put out. Is that all there is? It's not possible. Such a light. Wanna keep your light burning till every light is lit. Gonna build your dream brick by brick, brick by brick, brick by brick, brick by brick. This is a song for the children. No one can do of your brother. Let it be your own pain. Don't be afraid of the thunder. Though I'm not here to catch you, you must walk on your own, you will not fall. Come on now, little children, stand tall. This is a song for the children. No one can bribe you. Well, can in all kind of see things that'll never satisfy you. Though I'm not here to catch you, you must walk on your own, you will not fall. Come on now, little children, stand tall. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. This is a song for the children. No one can see you when you hear the painful cry of your brother. Let it be your own pain. Don't be afraid of the thunder. Though I'm not here to catch you, you must walk on your own, you will not fall. Come on now, little children, stand tall. La, 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 Okay. Today. One last song. This goes out to brothers and sisters in Chutz La'aretz. The song is called It's Time to Come Home. And by the way, if you want to support a starving artist, you can get a CD, and the first 5 you buy, you get 2 for the price of 1. So come see me after. When the sleeping volcano starts grumbling, rumbling, and your kingdom is shattered by a stone, and the criminal who killed Robert Kennedy, he's standing outside your window, and my, how he's grown. And the judge says the house that you built is no longer your own. Well, it's time to come home. I said it's time. Yes, it's time. Yes, it's time to come home. When the guests that you thought would be grateful condemn you for all of the gifts that you give, and you plead with them to accept your own suicide. If only they would allow you just to live. They say no, we don't want you alone. We want everything you own. Well, it's time. It's time to come home. I said it's time.
Oh, it's time.
Yes, it's time.
It's time.
You're so understanding, and the more you try, the more you find yourself standing all alone. When this fantasy that you thought was gonna last forever, it turns into a nightmare of fear that you've never known. It's time to come home.
It's time to come home, yeah. come home. Yeah, yeah, come home. Yeah, come home, come home.
When the mistress you thought you could marry says first your children you must disown. And every time you throw him a bone, they say no, we don't want you. We want everything you own. I said it's time to come home. I said it's time. Yes, it's time. Yes, it's time to come home. I said it's time. Yes, it's time. Yes, it's time to come home. It's time to come home. It's time to come home. It's time to come home.
10 years ago today, yesterday, Rabbi Benjamin Kehana and his wife Vטליה were murdered. And the truth of the matter is that I haven't yet even started the mourning because I'm still unable to internalize and to absorb that Benjamin is not with us anymore and Vטליה is not here anymore. You know, the Shiva period, the period of a Shiva, the halacha, you know, to sit Shiva for someone, for a close relative, or a student, for a rabbi, to a mourning period, is very, very important to get it out of the system. And unfortunately, I was in America when Rabbi Benjamin was murdered here, and I never had that period, that immediate period when the shock hits, to sit and mourn with those close to you, with the family, with the friends. I never had that experience because I was there. And so it's still something which is distant for me, and it's still too much of a painful thought to even begin the mourning period. And so I try and live my life as if Benjamin, Kehana, and Vטליה are with us. And I try and think, what is it that Benjamin would do? What would he say? What would the Kehana approach be to any given situation? And the truth is, almost. And so that's the primary. Before Rabbi Benjamin was murdered, he was in the States. He was on a trip to the States, and we had a big dinner for him in Brooklyn. And Benjamin said to me on on that last trip, which was really just a short time before he was murdered here, he said, you know, in Israel, nothing is going to happen with the organization until you return. He just felt that he did not have the organizational support here to move the movement, to make it happen. And so I said to him, I asked him, are you telling me that I should return to Israel? Because if that's what you're saying, I'll be on the next plane. Because obviously I was only in the States temporarily, and I was there primarily on shlichut of the organization. And he said, you know what you're supposed to do. And I said, I understand what you're saying is that I should come back to Israel. He said, I didn't say that. You know what you should do. And the truth is that even when Rabbi Benimin was alive, that was the way he told us what to do. He was able to look at us, and you were able to look in his eyes, and you were able to understand exactly what he's saying to you. He didn't speak much. He didn't have to say much. Just the way he looked at you, you understood what he was saying. And at the time, I wanted to pretend that I don't know what he's saying. He didn't clearly say that I should come back, but I understood. And so we heard the tragic news. Obviously, it was my intention to immediately return to Israel, and I returned here soon after. What I want to speak about in the brief time that I've allotted to myself to speak here, because we want to hear the music, I promised the media that I was going to speak about the assassination of Rabbi Benimin Kehana and Talia Kehana. And those of you who know me and who know the position of the organization know that we never referred to his murder as an assassination. Today is the first time in 10 years that we are recognizing the fact that Benimin Kehana was specifically targeted and murdered. It wasn't just a coincidence. At the time, there were many Jews that were murdered on Route 60, on their way to and from Jerusalem and near Ophrah and near Shiloh. It was not uncommon at the time. And until now, we've never come to grips with the fact that he was assassinated. He was killed not only because he was a Jew, but because he was the big Jew. Just like Rabbi Meir Kehana was murdered, as El Said Noser Yimach Shemo, the murderer of Rabbi Kehana, said, that he killed the big Jew. He was specifically chosen. He was specifically targeted. Until now, what we would say is we have no evidence to that effect. And in fact, Kehana Chai and Benimin Kehana, we always took the position with all of these right-wing conspiracy theories, Peres killed Rabin, and we always rejected the conspiracy theories. That's what makes Kehanism different and Judaism different than nationalism and different than the right. We're people of integrity. We say what needs to be said. And if Rabin is a traitor, then we say it. And if we're not sad that he was assassinated, then we say it. And we don't see the primary culprit to be Avishai Raviv or whoever. And we also viewed Benimin Kehana's assassination as a murder. We said we had no evidence that he was specifically targeted. Many Jews were killed. Perhaps he was just murdered like other Jews. He and his wife were murdered like other Jews in that same spot, were murdered that same year. But unfortunately, there are facts that have surfaced, and this is the first time that we are really speaking about them publicly. And Walter from Arutz Sheva is the one that's getting the scoop, because the rest of the media left already. And the fact is that there are not only unanswered questions, but there is evidence to the fact that the Americans sponsored the Arafat's presidential guard, and it is those very guards, the commanders of Arafat's personal presidential guard, that murdered Benimin Kehana. The fact is the Americans sponsored and continue to sponsor the Al-Aqsa Brigade, which is effectively the terrorist organization that murdered Rabbi Benimin Kehana. The fact is that in Beirut, at 7:15 in the morning, the terrorists already sent out a press release to the agency, French press, to the French news agency, and to the Kuwait news agency, both in English and in Arabic, where they specifically took credit for killing the extremist Jew Kehana. The first bullets penetrated Rabbi Binyamin's car at 6:40 in the morning. There was no broadcast who was murdered at 6:41 in the morning, or at 7 in the morning, or at 7:15 in the morning. That wasn't known until much later to the public. But yet the press release, which was well organized, a long, well-written press release, both in English and in Arabic, went out from Beirut to foreign news agencies. And in this press release, incidentally, there's also an Arab passage in there, which I have a copy of here tonight, where they specifically say that we were given information from the Israeli intelligence GSS, from the General Security Services, from the Shin Bet, that extremist Jews are going to attack the Temple Mount, and this is their preemptive strike against these extremist Jews. The press release says it. The Israeli media said it. Shortly before Binyamin and Talia were murdered, the Israeli media claimed that there was cooperation and collaboration between the Israeli security services and the so-called Palestinian security services, and that they were sharing names of the extremists on both sides with both parties to help save the peace process from the extremists. And so Israel helped the PLO take out the Hamas, and the PLO shared those names with Israel. And they also shared names of Jewish extremists. That's what the Israeli media said. But until now, we didn't want to face up to these facts. But these are facts. So one of the Israeli reporters asked me earlier, are you going to say that the Israelis sent the murderers who killed Benimin Kehana? No, we're not going to say that because we're credible people, because we represent the credible idea, the Jewish idea. But we will say that the guns that the Israelis gave to the PLO were the guns that we used to murder Benimin Kehana and Talia Kehana and so many other Jews. We will say that information that was shared with the Palestinians, the so-called Palestinians, surely could have helped them in their efforts to follow and to surveil and ultimately to murder Benimin Kehana. We can say that they indirectly murdered him on that day, and we can say that they directly murdered him before that day when they chased him and pursued him and beat him. You saw the video earlier, those of you that were here for the Hebrew segment. You see the blood on his head. A year after his father was murdered, giving a rally in Jerusalem, they came with their horses and they came with their batons and they beat him until he bled. And they saw that they were hoping that they were finished with Kehana. And here came along another Kehana. And they were hoping that they could beat him a little bit and that would deter him, but that didn't work. And they're hoping that they could arrest him, and that surely would deter him and his family, but that didn't work because he had a wife who supported him, who was his partner in crime. So they saw that they could not destroy the Jewish idea. And so then they closed his center down in Jerusalem. That was only shortly, a matter of days before he was murdered, that they closed it. And that didn't help. And so they found their way to silence Kehana. I'm not saying that the Israelis pulled the trigger. I'm not saying that the Israelis sent those murderers on that day. But I am saying that they facilitated the murderers of Rabbi Kehana and of Benimin Kehana. And they cheapened his blood. And it's something that we need to remember, because unfortunately the betrayal of Jews has not ended with the murder of Rabbi Kehana and with the murder of Benimin Kehana. And interestingly enough, there are very clear parallels between the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahana and the murder of Binyamin Zev Kahana. El Said Noseir, the murderer of Rabbi Meir Kahana, as it came out in the trial of the murderer, he was trained by American security personnel. He was taught to shoot the very gun that he used to murder Rabbi Meir Kahana in New York on November 5th, 1990. He was learned to use that gun by American security personnel in Waterbury, Connecticut, where he would go and practice shooting. These are facts that came out in the trial. And the Al-Kifa Refugee Center, which paid Noseir a salary, was a center that was set up by the CIA to train Islamic fundamentalists and send them to Afghanistan to fight the Russians. And Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, his spiritual leader, was illegally allowed to enter the United States and was financed so that he could sponsor the training and the shipping off of Arab terrorists to Afghanistan. And so when the American authorities and when the FBI gave that press conference and said, after Rabbi Meir Kahana was murdered, that it was only a lone gunman who has no connection to any international network of terrorism, they lied. And there was clear evidence that they knew very well about that linked Noseir to terrorist activities and to future terrorist activities. And Noseir, who would be found innocent for murdering Rabbi Kahana, would ultimately be found guilty in the future after they would connect him to the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. And here again we see it is the Americans who trained the murderers of Binyamin Kahana. Koach Shvasre, the force, the Presidential Guard, the commanders that went and murdered Binyamin Kahana were trained by the Americans and armed by the Israelis. Call it what you want. Those are the facts. And so tonight, for the first time, we are speaking the truth and speaking the facts about the Binyamin Kahana assassination. And we're also informing them, those that murdered Rabbi Kahana and those that facilitated the murders, that we will not be silent and that we will not die. We will continue to keep the Kahana name alive and the Kahana message alive, because it is not a matter of Kahana yes or Kahana no. It's a matter of Judaism yes or Judaism no. It's a matter of Torah yes or Torah no. It's a matter of Jewish lives. It's a matter of the future of Israel. It's a matter of the redemption of the Jewish people, because that is what Kahana means. And so everyone's impressed with all of these rabbis that are standing up now, and they do deserve credit, and they have made progress. The rabbis that have come out of the closet and now speak openly about various nationalist issues like Goyim in Israel and why we should not allow them to take over the land and why we should not sell them homes in Israel. And it's impressive to see rabbis making that progress. But until those rabbis are willing to wear that star and fist and to say openly that we sinned, that Kahana was right, that Kahana is right, because when Rabbi Kahana spoke those words, he was a voice in the wilderness. And when Rabbi Binyamin Kahana spoke those words, he was alone. There were no 100 rabbis and 72 rabbis and 300 rabbis supporting him and writing letters of solidarity. And we know that it says that somebody who says something b'shem omro, when you say something in the name of the person that originally said it, you bring redemption to the world. And when these rabbis have the full courage to come out and say that we sinned and that we abandoned Rabbi Kahana to the wolves, and that we share also in the responsibility, until they come out and say that Kahana was right and openly say it without fear, it will only be a partial admission of truth. On that note, I would like to wish all of us on this important day, at this important event, that we go home tonight and that we take with us the Kahana message of truth. And that we too Learn from them not to be frightened to stand alone. There are rabbis that are already talking about how it's illegal against halacha to sell houses to goyim, and how it's against halacha, and how during a time of war that innocent people, so-called innocent people, not just soldiers, can be killed, will be killed, should be killed. But there are other parts of the Torah truth which the rabbis are not yet quite ready to say. We spoke about it a little bit earlier in the Hebrew segment about the concept of the state of Judea, of Jewish sovereignty, and that scares them so much. It is not a coincidence that Binyamin was taken from us right after he took on that message. As you saw, those of you that were here earlier at Hillel Lieberman's funeral, where he said we have to take our destiny into our own hands. We have to create Jewish sovereignty here. There's nothing that scares them more than that, the authorities. And let us not be scared to speak the unpopular and the often dangerous truth. I'm going to invite the musicians to sing a few more songs, and then I'm going to invite Dr. Majdanek. For me, you're a doctor, to say a few words about the Russian organization within the Kehana movement.